So, which brings us, of course, to antisocial networks. And one of the things you got to think about when you're doing this network recon, or recon in general, cyberstalking, footprinting, whatever way you want to look at it, OS intelligence, you got to link things together. Like, for instance, a while back, I got a message from someone, all I had was a username. It was like, oh, I knew this person's real name a few years back, but I don't recall now. Well, from the username, I was able to do some searching around for profiles, and while on her profile on one place, she didn't have her real name, on another one, she used the exact same username, and she did have a real name. So it's all about linking information together. One thing leads to another, leads to another. Like a Facebook profile with a username may lead to a board posting with that same username, which might lead to a log they posted from the company, which tells you where they work for. Between that and the job description, you might be able to go to LinkedIn and figure out who they are. You know, it's all about making connections, which when I pull up the tool Maltego here in a bit, the one thing I do like about Maltego is it shows you visually how connections are and gives you a good mind map on how you should look at OS intelligence. But first of all, let's talk a little bit about ISSA. Now, for doing this class, I didn't want to drop docs on real people, so I think it was about a month and a half ago, I tried to create my own profile online. And so I created Esther, specifically Esther Lee, Esther1337. By the way, her full name is Esther Pent, so if anybody gets the in-joke. The reason I called her Esther Pent, pen tester. Flop those syllables around. If you want to practice cyberstalking people and find information on individuals just based on their full name or their username or phone numbers, really one of the best things to do is go out to one of these personal sites and just practice that way. It may be sound as creepy as hell, but it does work. But if anybody has seen this person on social networks, it's actually been me for the past month and a half trying to leave breadcrumbs so I can switch to them in class. Which unfortunately I don't think I've left enough breadcrumbs for it to be all that useful. But as 4chan has taught us, always remember this. Rule 30, there are no girls on the internet. Except you two. Egad, that's one ugly person. Let's see. But I have a huge list of cyberstalking sites if you want to find information on people. And we're going to use Esther here as an example in a few here shortly. But this is a list I'm trying to compile and I plan on keeping up to date. Just a ton of different sites you can look up information. A few of them you just noticed that we've already covered here. I do a little short mention of what I think they're good for. I also mentioned various tools. I'm going to go show some of these in class. Your mileage may vary on what results you get, and for some people a certain tool will work really well for getting information, and for others it won't. But you don't necessarily, there's no like one particular site that's consistently better. We'll see what things I wanted to actually show. Let's look through this a little bit more. A few useful sites I like. Let's say bluelaw.com. Let's search for a few people there. Go to there, and let's say I want to look up a name. I could sometimes type in a username, type in a full name. Let's try, first of all, Aiden Crenshaw. See what information you can find out about me. Goes out and tries to find a few profiles, but unfortunately a lot of these aren't actually my profiles. I did have a thing on Friendster at one time, but I've gone through and deleted a bunch of these, so this one's probably an expired account. Let me see, what else is in here? TritPic. This might be useful. I actually have used TritPic from time to time, but I've gone out and deleted that account as well. So this isn't coming up with any useful information. We could try Esther Pent. Give it a shot, see if anything comes up. Alright, looks like she may have a Twitter account. She did, this one's Friendster account, but looks like it's giving us false positives on that. Let's go check out the TwitPic and see if anything comes up. What it might be doing is going out to these various sites. Could not be found. I've actually used this particular site for decent results before. Well, there's Esther. Found her on Facebook. But these particular people, this site's not giving me a whole lot of useful data, so let's go ahead and try one of the other ones. PQ is also sometimes pretty good. The problem with a lot of these sites is There'll be really good ones for a while. That'll get popular, and then all of a sudden they'll get bought out by like Intellis or some other company, and you'll find some really basic information. Then to get anything more, you actually have to pay for it, which is unfortunate. So, Adrian Crenshaw, let's do a search for me. PQ. It's going along. I'm actually going to close down some of these other windows. While that's up and running. There we go. And that's running along trying to find stuff on Adrian D. Crenshaw. While I'm thinking about it, let me go out here on PQ and look up a username as well. First, before I set up a Esther Pent. Let's see if I can find anything on her. All that's pretty weak. Let's go back to the Adrian Crenshaw one. And it's still just sitting there, going along slowly. Alright, I have to reestablish it. Alright, for Adrian Crenshaw at least, it found something decent. It found from one of my profiles that I like Terry Pratchett and Stephen King, but notice there's a few other Crenshaws out there. And they all have different ages, and some of them look actually close to me, enough to me, though I think that they might actually try to beat me, like this one in Middletown, Kentucky. I'm thinking there might have been some confusion. This Adrian D. Crenshaw in Indianapolis, Indiana. I'm thinking somehow there's a connection to me. So sometimes this information is bad. To actually be able to verify it, well, the picture of me is one thing that helps verify that. But let me go into my profile there. Usernames I use, Iron Geek. Well, that's an obvious. Now, I'm a really easy person to cyberstalk because I leave footprints all over the place. Idea of age, address, idea of phone number. Now I'm doing a search for Adrian Crenshaw, and that part of the phone number out on Google might actually give some results. Possible links, irongeek.com. And then let's see any other information on this particular screen that's useful. It has a MySpace, but it's no longer there because I've recently deleted my MySpace. I've gone through and done a fairly great purging. A while back, I was looking around for myself online and realized, wait a second, I have a Friendster account still? But that's an example of some information. Let's go back here and look at Esther. So far, nothing there on username. As a matter of fact, it gave me a bunch of really bad results. So let's look for Esther Pent and that username. And we'll show you some Google stalking stuff later on. Some people like these because it gives you all the results in one small page. But unfortunately, sometimes it doesn't give you any results that are actually valid or useful. And clicking on something that looks like it's going to take you something useful just asks you to go to a pay site. We'll see if Esther comes up with anything here shortly. Well, while that's actually running in the background, let's go ahead and try one of the other ones. Oh, these are two sites I do kind of like, Noam and checkusernames.com. You'd think there'd be a simple site for this. Some of these sites you do massive cyber stalking on will tell you, yeah, this is this person's Facebook profile. But a lot of them don't. Let's say, for instance, I know that IronGeek exists on various sites. So let's do a search for IronGeek_ADC. And what this particular tool does, check usernames, is it goes out to all these different sites and checks to see whether or not that name is available. This helps people be able to choose a username that would be available on a ton of different sites so they can stay the same on all of them. But it's also useful to us because it tells us, oh, wait a second, this person, this username may already have a profile on this page, so I can go check it out. And as you can see, apparently an account called IronGeek_ADC exists on Friendster, YouTube, Twitter, so on and so forth. And I just clicked on Twitter and it's taken me to my profile page. I can do something very much the same with Esther. Let's go ahead, Esther. So this is one of my favorite sites. You know, it's one thing to have a tool that supposedly does it all for you, but some of them are so corrupty, gives such bad information. And Adrian Crenshaw is a fairly simple one because this is definitely this doesn't sound egotistical, but it's not, because really the claim you're the most famous Agent Crenshaw in the world isn't exactly, a great claim to fame.
Deviant art.
But if you had a name like John Smith, there'd probably be so much noise it'd be really hard to filter out. But let's see, Esther, it looks like she may have a Friendster, may have a YouTube. Just because she has a YouTube, though, it may just be that she has a Gmail account, which she does. You see Twitter's there. I can click on Twitter. I can look through recent posts she's made. Though in this case, it's taking me to... Okay, never mind. That link doesn't actually take you to the person's profile. It takes you... I thought I typed in Esther there. Oh. Click check username again. And now maybe it'll actually refresh and actually use Esther's information as opposed to Iron Geek ADC's information. Okay. Now it's actually got Esther. Let's bring up Esther. People made fun of me for choosing that particular name for it. It's like, that's like a granny name. I was like, well, it's Esther. It's a cool name. And you can do the whole pin tester bit. By the way, that's a reference to I was asking the question, who all can I use as an example to cyberstalk? And so as the person who I actually am, I said, yeah, you can do me. That's the context, guys. And you see she's been communicating with Dave Kennedy some. Look into some more information on some of these posts. It might actually have geolocation information. She's posted some pictures that have geolocation information. And we'll get into that here in a bit. But there's a ton of information on different sites. And let's see if there's anything else on here. Intense debate. I'm trying to find any other profile pages that might be useful. There's no idea what she's going to be on YouTube. Well, she's here on YouTube. Subscribes to one feed, I guess. Country Poland. That may not actually be the account I'd set up. That might be someone else. I would think Esther would be fairly unique, but perhaps not. Alright, let's go ahead and type in someone else. Let's go out to... See, Esther never did return decent information. Let me go out to here. Oh, what's up?
I was looking at my username, trying to figure out where half the stuff my username fits.
Yeah, a lot of stuff is awfully loud and not necessarily directly useful. I'm trying to remember how to spell Pachelski. I'm the same guy that screws up Riley, so what the hell? So let's go ahead and try Pachelski. Let's look him up, and we'll take out that username Esther. Do a PQ on him. We may bring up iSearch here in a second.
Go back. It won't make search once it's done.
That has been my experience.
This may sound vaguely correct. I think he is about that age. That's actually a picture of Keith, so I can confirm that's Keith. Found a MySpace profile, a Facebook profile. And from here you can find tons of information on him if you want to. A nice little map. A bunch of documents he's written. And I'm strange this didn't come up for me. This should have came up for me. It's possibly just a slow connection and we're getting spurious results. Various factoids about him. Now I'm really curious why all that information didn't come up for me when I typed in my information there. Peek. Trying to see if any of these other ones might be me. Well, let's go back to Iron Geek 36 and see, I'm pretty sure on one of these sites before I did a search for me and I found a ton of other information. Notice how though it points you to a lot of other places where you actually have to go and pay to get any information. Like from there I can go to Spokio, and some of the information is vaguely correct, like, I don't make anywhere near that amount of money. I'm not sure where it got that. Let's see. Mail, that's accurate. That's not exactly. Politics, I'm not sure where it found that. But any of these things I want to click on, it's going to,
yeah, it's how much you pay.
Yeah. Family tree, let's see. But see, for some of these, it'll actually give you decent information. For others, it won't. You have to try different people on different sites to be able to find anything useful. Let me go ahead and bring up another site. Nah, let's close this down. Let's go ahead and bring up white pages. Now that one's fairly obvious. Search for names, find phone numbers, look at phone numbers, find names. I'm not going to bother showing that one, but white pages is useful for that. There's one other white pages sub-site that's useful that I'll talk about here in a bit. Let's bring up iSearch. iSearch used to be Spark, and Spark I've gotten decent results from before. Let's try screen name first. Let's try Esther 13.7. Nothing for that. Let's try SecOps. That's Keith's username that he uses a lot of places. And I believe he spells the ops with a 0. Nothing there whatsoever. Did I spell that at all? Nope. Let's try screen name Iron Geek. Some you get better results with screen name. Some you get better results. Well, that looks vaguely useful. Let's go to that one. But Iron Geek actually did come up with something. MySpace, Facebook, so on and so forth. Address in New Albany, Indiana. But now to get any place else, we're probably going to have to pay. Flickr page for Iron Geek. Let's go ahead and go to Flickr page. No longer a member of Flickr. MySpace, Iron Geek. I deleted that account recently. There actually should be a Facebook profile for Iron Geek, but I have 2 Facebook profiles. Let's go to full name, and what do I have to paste for it? Let's look up Keith. Wait for iSearch to actually return some results. That one sounds closer. We can go there. Oh, this is a paid site. Actually, let's go to Allentown, PA. That's one of the things about a lot of these sites. iSearch with a Spark used to be really, really good. It got bought by Intellis and went away as far as being useful. A lot of these sites, you pretty much have to keep searching for new ones as the results you actually get that are worthwhile changes over time. But that one's pretty scant. Alright, let's go back here. A few other ones I want to mention. TinEye and pipes.yahoo.com. Pipes allows you to put together a bunch of different RSS feeds so you can see what's going on. And my thing also, you can pull social networks so you can follow someone and put together a profile on them. Haven't played with the tool enough, but plenty of people recommend it. As you say, I say most of these profiling sites are kind of crap from a certain standpoint, because you saw how I get varying results depending on who it is, which particular search engine I use, and the ones I just showed are some of the ones I've actually found somewhat useful. A lot of the other ones I played with are even worse. Let's go ahead and bring up TinEye. TinEye is a neat little tool. Essentially what you can do is upload a photo, and it tries to search for similar photos. For instance, I'm going to search for Iron Geek zombie, just because I know this image, at least in the past, has come up. I wrote an article a while back on zombies as in bots, computer networks, and I modified an image to make me look like a zombie.
You need another job,
I can search on TinEye using the TinEye plugin, and go out to TinEye's database and try to find other pages where the exact same photo exists. That's useful to figure out who someone is. Let's say they post a profile pic someplace. You can right-click on it, and this does an image search for a similar picture. I'm trying to think of a place I can go to do something similar. Even if they've modified the picture heavily, let me go back here. Oh, I don't want that. I'm trying to think where I can go for a picture that would be useful, that's been modified. Sometimes I'll do like 4chan or something and be able to find a picture like, who is this particular actress? I'll be able to right-click and figure out who it is based on the picture. or it's been heavily modified. Even if it's been modified, I can still find the original. Let me, actually, we'll get into Google site, Google searching parameters here in a second, but I'm going to use one here a little ahead of time. Let's see. I would have thought that would come up. Alright. I'm looking for a specific image on one of these pages that I know will give me useful results. The problem with TinEye, there's a lot of images out there that you think it show up because you know there are all sorts of places where it exists on the internet, but it still doesn't come up. For instance, this is a little picture of a pirate flag that I've modified with pwned and ether-capped rocks. I'm going to search for it on TinEye. And eventually TinEye gives me back results, some of them which are the unmodified version of the original image. And I've seen some images that got heavily modified, seriously photoshopped, and still been able to bring them up in here and find them using TinEye. However, there's other images you would have thought it would bring up and know about that it doesn't. For instance, if I go out here to my own personal website and go to About Me, close that. Don't need to see that no more. I know this image of me is all over the place because anytime someone for a conference wants to have a photo of me, I just send this one. And in the past, when I've done a search for it on TinEye, it always comes up 0 results. So I'm really not sure why the zombie one's out there all over the place and that one's not. So they said your mileage may vary with TinEye, but it is a nifty utility regardless and worth checking out. Okay. Next section we'll talk a little bit about is some more stuff you can use for profiling social networks or finding out info. Your open book is kind of nifty. There's plenty of people who post a little bit too much on the Facebook and don't realize they're posting in the complete open. And I happily feel sorry for them because Facebook changes its privacy policies from time to time. It's hard to know what's shared and what's not, and it's the interface is, let's say, somewhat lackluster. But give me something to search for on OpenBook. We'll go basically searching people's open Facebook status messages. Let's look up last night. I'm sure y'all can think of better search terms that might be intriguing. Stuff that's a little bit more embarrassing. Let's look. See who partied a little too hard last night. Okay. But OpenBook can have some interesting results from time to time. There's also various interesting geolocation pages. I kind of like Bing Maps for this, and this one I'm going to actually back up. Bing Maps is pretty nifty. Dave Marcus introduced me to using Bing Maps. Now, I usually use Firefox for most things, but this I'm going to go ahead and switch to Internet Explorer because they use some kind of ActiveX plugin in the background for Bing Maps, and yeah, Firefox doesn't quite cut it for Bing. Okay. So let me bring up Bing Maps. Explore Map Apps. And I think there used to be one for Foursquare in here someplace. I'm not sure if it's still around. Let's look up Twitter. And a lot of people, when they tweet, especially if they're using like phone devices that may automatically post their location, if you don't go in and tell it not to, you can actually profile where they've been posting from, because they don't realize that they're sending it. And sometimes it's sent deliberately for reasons of which I'm still kind of curious why people care to tell people where they're at all times. I think there used to be a Foursquare map in here as well. There's other tools out there for doing Foursquare, but here's some tweets people have been making in our area. Go looking around and see if anybody said something interesting. Also, you should be able to filter it down by people. I'm not sure if this is going to work because of, let's see, people. Let's look up Esther. I remember leaving some bookmarks around for her where she's been tweeting from. Known for your current criteria. So let's go. No results. Here's some from around New Albany, Indiana, people who have posted stuff. I'm pretty sure I've gone in there and searched and found stuff from Esther before, but for whatever reason I'm not right now. Weird. Alright, let's go ahead and do a search for my name instead. Weird. Alright, let's go ahead and back up out of this. See if there's any other map apps we might find interesting. Let's go use a different tool. Dave Marcus actually has a good presentation out there, which I have a link to in the slides later on, for doing various geolocation things with Twitter. Let's go to, Trip Map. I'm not wondering if that one's even still live. Problem with some of these sites, people develop them, and then all of a sudden they go away because they've changed the API. The person who developed them originally developed them as a toy, so it's no longer actually useful. Let's see if Esther comes up. Oh, cool. I knew I left traces of Esther. I'm not sure why it wasn't coming up before, but here's a few places Esther has been found via trip maps. She definitely hasn't been in Toronto. Alright, I searched for Esther and it's giving me... Oh, it's because I tweeted to her. But I definitely wasn't up there in Canada. Alright. Second, I was just tweeted about Esther from here. And Esther, I make her location be Washington, D.C., even though it's really not. So you find some tweets there as well. Hopefully when I bring up the tool Creepy here in a little bit, we'll find better results. Let's see, what else we got? Forware. Look at where Foursquare users have been.
What's Foursquare?
What's Foursquare? I've only used it a little bit. I don't understand the appeal of it.
It's like a check-in thing.
You can check in at various places, and I think you can get
mayor.
coupons if you're the mayor of a place because you've checked in so many times in a certain amount of time. I can't say I get the appeal.
You can find people through it. Like, you'll be there and...
But people can find me too.
Well, yeah.
But you can look at people in the area, but if you want to do something similar for Foursquare, it's out there. Let's see. I can stalk you. These are people that post their geolocation information all the time. I think this one is ran by Ben Jackson and Larry Pesci. So people who post way too often with geolocation information. You'll find that out there. Let me see. We'll wait till we get to the next stopping point then. Let's see. IP to geolocation. You have an IP address. You might have a pretty good luck looking it up using this. Like this one by default is pulling up the IP address we're coming from right now, and it geolocates it. It's pretty nifty. Let's see, what other geolocation stuff we have. White pages, find neighbors. If you want to socially engineer someone, you know their address. You can find information about their neighbors and maybe get their neighbors to do something for you. Could be useful. Alright, a few tools for doing these things. There's Maltego. I'm going to bring up Maltego and see if we can actually make it work decently on this itty bitty screen. What? Next. Alright, to find Maltego, I believe it's underneath of backtrack 5, but it moves a few things around. Information gathering, network analysis. Despite the fact that it's dot, let me see, DNS analysis, despite the fact it does a lot more than that, you can find it if you need DNS analysis. But I think it might be on a few other places too. I'm not sure they may map it to more than one location. But I'm firing up Maltego. And this particular machine, I've gone ahead and registered my name with Maltego, got a bunch of live keys for different searches, and so it will function. A lot of you all, if you try to use it right now, it's going to ask you to register. It's going to ask you to type in a damn captcha for every single freaking search. Maltego used to be a lot more useful. It was completely free, and every new version, it seems to be a little more painful to use. I know there's people out there who love the thing, but I'm cheap. I don't want to pay for the actual licenses, and using the free version is just kind of painful. There's some people developing something called NetGlub. That's like an open source alternative, but they're not very responsive to your email, and it's a massive pain in the ass to compile it and get it to run. So, best of luck with all that. Let's see. Eventually, hopefully, Maltego comes up. Come on, do your thing. Alright, cool. Welcome to Maltego. Startup Wizard, do your thing. Alright. Now right here, hopefully it still has all my keys from the last time I ran it, because I've taken keys for every single transform that comes up. But I know if I didn't show a little bit about Maltego, people will complain. I can't read the freaking capture, yeah.
FORLES.
101 for 101.
And what I was saying is, if it just did this once, that'd be okay. But if my keys have expired for some of the transforms I'm about to use, it's going to ask me on every single freaking transform. Okay. Let's go ahead and create a new one. And we just want it to be a nice... It was running better on this machine previously. There we go. Nice little blank graph. And unless you have a decent resolution on a machine, it's hard to actually use this. I'm going to bring up the palette over here on the left. And let's go ahead and just pull up a domain. I'm going to drag a domain over here for us to look at. Instead of Perturba, we're going to go in there and change that to IronGeek. We go down here in the properties and we can change that to be irongeek.com. That's that object. Alright, before I continue, there's various things you can do as far as managing transforms. Some ones are going to need certain keys. You can go in there and authorize, say, yes, I agree to this particular license statement or this particular disclaimer. You can set up keys and whatnot. And some of these, my understanding, to do the most out of Maltego, you have to get the keys for various transforms to actually make it work the best in the world. I got irongeek.com there. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and run transforms, and I'm going to do something, come on, alright. Right-click, run transform, and I'm going to say all the possible transforms. You see it breaks into groups, though. Various DNS information automatically pull, owner details, email addresses, files, and so forth. Let's go ahead and run all transforms. And apparently, since I ran this like a day or two ago, it wants new keys. Imagine if there was a phone version of this. I thought I typed it in right.
Looks like it.
I was typing it in the wrong spot. Come on. Why is my mouse moving? Isn't this captivating lesson time? Hope this inspires some people to go out there and develop a completely free version that's actually going to be continually developed. Let's see. Well, the username, I can do that. I'm sorry, the password, I can do that. Yeah. Once we get to the Google hacking section, things get a little bit more fun, trust me. What? Lose not hope yet. And here I'm not even sure what purpose the capture serves. It's going to be annoying. You know what? We're going to cancel all these. I'm not going to get valid keys for all the transforms. I'm just going to show you some ideas of what it's doing in the background. Alright, and once you actually get some results, it actually is fairly pretty. And you see these nice little connections between different spots. If you don't have a high-resolution screen, it's not that useful. You see a bunch of phone numbers it's mapped to that it thinks are somehow related. This might be just ones that have been scraped from WHOIS information. Let me click here and see if I can drag around. IronGeek.ru, I'm not sure why it thinks, other than the same name, that might be mine, though it is. Though it's not, just the host name, I imagine. Aiden Crenshaw, it might be able to tell us why it thinks that's mine. Also, if we click on the details. Instead of that one, I think I'm going to go to this web page and see why it thinks it's related to me. Probably because my name is someplace on the page. You can go down to the snippet, and you can find a little snippet of information that was on that particular entity that made it throw it in there and say it was related to me. But sometimes that screen size, that print's so small, even if you're standing in front of the screen, you can't hardly see it. Now, in this version of Maltego, it's a fair amount better. But Maltego's interesting as far as showing you a visual layout, but a lot of stuff that's bringing up is also unrelated to me, and I'm going to have to go in and weed it out anyway. I can't write or create a tool the way people that did Maltego did, but I find it kind of frustrating to use, at least the free version of it. So if anybody wants to go out there and develop something similar for like doing the graphical layout of connections, have at it. There is some people working on something called NetClub, but it's a massive pain to compile and install, and they don't seem to respond to messages when you email them. There's actually installed instructions out there on that P-test standard I showed you before. But that's a quick overview of what's in Maltego. I'm going to shrink that down, and let's see. You can find out some of the difference between the paid version and non-paid version. Some things are encrypted and some things aren't with the unpaid version. Also, my understanding is the keys expire quicker on the unpaid version, whereas they last longer on the paid version. I only briefly looked over the differences. All right, a little bit of story time as far as doing searching on Facebook profiles and finding out information on people. George Bronk, someone who might be of interest. This guy a while back was finding women's profiles on Facebook. Then he used the information in them to answer the mail provider's questions. Something similar, if you remember Sarah Palin's email hack a while back, someone got and changed the password to her account fairly easily because, well, a lot of this public information was like, where did you meet your husband? Well, if you've done any research on Sarah Palin, probably even from the Wikipedia entry on her, you'd find out that it was like at the high school where she met her. Well, there's only so many high schools where she grew up, so it didn't take long to figure it out and reset the password again. This guy got into these girls' profiles much the same way, and from there, he got into actually their email because he could find out the security questions from the Facebook profiles. Then he started looking around the email for pictures they'd sent, and he found a bunch of nudes. He started posting these various places. A few times he'd contact the women and threaten to send out the nudes to people unless he got more nudes and from them. And he also sent them out to people's mailing lists. General douchebaggery all the way around. But it shows you that a lot of people choose really stupid passwords and post way too much about themselves on Facebook. Not to mention, I never understood the whole thing about having a naked digital photo of yourself out there, because you know that's going to get around. I don't mind that. Let's bring to the question, to be social or not to be social? Now, should you have a profile at all? And I know various security folks who say, screw it, I'm not going to use any of these services whatsoever. A buddy of mine is very much like that. So recently his wife got him on Facebook. However, what if you don't? There is a bit of a problem with imposters. If there is no Aiden Crenshaw on Facebook, anybody can be Aiden Crenshaw on Facebook. So that can be a bit of concern. Look up the, also you got to be aware of who all you add as friends, because friends can see a little bit more information than non-friends. And the fact that applications can see your friends, depending on your security settings, I find awfully annoying. But people will also add folks left and right for no real good reason that they barely freaking know. Your friend on Facebook isn't like your friend in real life. Look up the case of Robin Sage. It's basically a fake account that Thomas Ryan set up, where he got a bunch of people from various security agencies to add him, or I should say, add him as her to the profiles so he could like look around. And, you know, pretty girl in the InfoSec industry, it doesn't take long to compile a large list of people who have added you as a friend. And the next section we'll cover in a bit is Google hacking, but I think lunch is here, so let's go ahead and get into Google here in a bit.
All the instructions are on the website on how to do it.
All right, folks, we're going to get back into here. We'll talk a little bit about Google hacking. This we're going to have a lot more control over than a lot of the previous pages we were using that basically can go out there and look at stuff and then give you reports. Because a lot of them get decent information. You pretty much have to go to the paid site to do anything. So we're going to show you a few Google search parameters and give you some examples of some queries. To do some good Google hacking, you pretty much have to use your imagination on how you can string different parameters together to get the best results. So I'm going to go ahead and get my notes so I make sure there's sort of like subtopics I want to make sure I cover, which I have here in my mini notes. Okay, there's a lot of people who have personal identifiable information out there. Things you can find out there on Google, like sometimes banks or let's say a healthcare company might put out stuff on their webpage that they're not really supposed to, not realizing they've dumped it out on a inaccessible folder. Email addresses, internet's great for like compiling usernames for an attack so that you have an idea. Something I like to call I call it a kind of a reverse dictionary attack, where you essentially take the a bunch of usernames you know from a company, after doing it using a tool like the Harvester, which I'll show here in a bit, and then just use the password fuck name of company. And then basically try every single username with fuck that name of that company. Someone will probably have that. Or try every four-letter word with several accounts. See, the nice thing about that is a lot of people have account lockout happening. If you try the same account a whole lot with different passwords. However, if you're only trying like 4 different passwords across a few thousand different accounts, people don't necessarily lock that kind of action out. And if they have really bad password policies, there's certain passwords you can pretty be sure someone at an institution of a few thousand people will probably have. You can find vulnerable web services via Google hacking. Web-based admin interfaces are common. You know, do searches for like people who have the Linksys routers out there on the public internet, and a whole lot more. You pretty much just have to use your imagination in all different ways you can use these search parameters. Now, a few of the common ones we're going to see people use is probably the major workhorse is site : where essentially you can say only give me results from this particular site or domain name. Like I might use site : irongeek.com to only return results from irongeek.com. If you're trying to profile Splunk, you might say site : splunk.com to only pull information from there. A few other examples, all in URL and in URL, very similar. just depends on whether or not everything after the search term needs to be in the URL or only the first word. Essentially, it will only return results that have those sets of words inside the URL. Much the same way, title has to be inside the title tag. Cache colon brings up the cached version that Google has of a page. And an interesting thing to note about the cached version of some pages, the cache stays around for a little while even after you've deleted something off of your main page. However, even if you get the cache removed, sometimes in that little Google preview, when you do a search, I've seen stuff show up there even after it's been removed from the cache. So, yeah, I've leaked some documents like, oh, I need to remove that. And then found out Google had already indexed it. It took a while for it to actually get out of both the actual cache and that little preview text snippet. Extension and file type, if you want to search for only a certain type of file, like you want to search for only PDFs, that's a good thing. Info is a convenient way of pulling out various types of information all on one page for a domain. Link, if you only want to see text that appears inside of a link on a page, that's a good way. And in Anchor, that'd be link gives you pages that link to a specific page. So I want to find out about links to irongeek.com or a certain page of mine. I might say link colon some specific page of mine because I want to figure out who all is backlinking to me. In Anchor is the one that searches for a string inside of a particular tag. And if you want a whole list of different operators, go check out Google Guide. Now, here's a few other operators you can use. You can do an inverse search. For instance, if I'm looking for stuff on myself online, or if I'm looking up a particular person, and I don't have a web page, more than likely that web page is going to be the first search result for that person. Like Aiden Crenshaw, the first thing that comes up is Iron Geek. If I want to get rid of Iron Geek as a result, I can just put -irongeek.com and it won't return any results from irongeek.com. That filters out a lot of crap. You can also do -irongeek.com, -ISD podcast to get rid of multiple sources of noise that you don't want to see. The tilde gives you synonyms, like words like, I'm trying to think of some good examples. What's a synonym for thesaurus? Anyway, if you have multiple words that mean about the same thing, you know, duplicity, duplicity not a good example. I'm trying to think, great, now I'm having a hard time even coming up with decent synonyms. But pain, angst, torturous, you know, words like that, if you can't think of all the different words you could use, you use a tilde so it automatically replaces it in like synonyms. You can search for number ranges using these symbols. You can also use wildcards, plus symbols to make sure if words are forced to be used, or to string things together, saying this word has to exist and this word has to exist. You can also group things together with parentheses, and of course there's the classic this pipe symbol for or as well. Now, to give you a few examples of how you can use all these, that's just a quick rundown of some of the basic Google operators you can use to filter your search down to something specific. So let's look at a few that might be of interest. NPH proxy is this Perl proxy you can use for, just put it up on a web server and people can use it for getting past restrictive firewalls or content filtering. Someone a while back was saying, I can only get to .edu sites, and so I can't go out looking for a proxy so I can actually get to your site later. What do you suggest? And I gave him this particular search string. Now, at the time, I believe it did come up with stuff. But right now, it's not. I'll bring it up anyway, though. In URL, so it's basically looking for anything within URL, and this is the name of that particular CGI script. And I'm looking for any site that ends in edu that happens to have a web page that has this in the URL, underneath the hopes of finding a proxy for this person. Now, unfortunately, this is the only one that comes up. It's at butler.edu, but last I checked, it was no longer found. Actually, let me get rid of some noise here. Actually, I won't bring that one up in a bit, so I'll leave it up. I can stop you. But let's take off the edu instead and let's go with anything on the line. If I want to find that proxy someplace, because people who are doing filtering, they get wise pretty quick and they add these well-known proxy services like this to filters. But using Google, you can search for new ones. So here's a bunch of results of different pages that have this particular string in the URL, and more than likely they're running that particular CGI proxy. For instance, this is Conceal Me. And this may be filtered by the local content filter we have. Then again, maybe not. I'm going to open up a few of the other ones. Hopefully one of them actually will go someplace. This one's just kind of sitting there not going anyplace. This one actually returned results, though I'm not sure that's an appropriate one that actually takes me where I want. Let's see. This one. Here's another thing you'll find that happens. If a search term becomes really, really popular, people will deliberately use it to try to get redirected traffic. There used to be this, I'll show you that's coming up in a second. I'll give you a better example of that. But I'm trying to find somebody that has this particular, see that one timed out. I don't know if it's being filtered or not.
Do the stay incognito one.
Which one do you see?
I think the second one listed. Yeah. It's working.
Okay, so I found a copy of that CGI out there running using a little Google searching. These people, I don't know if they're actually running it or they're just people who are trying to get, they know people are going to be searching for that, so they deliberately try to get themselves high in the results. I got a better example coming up of just that sort of behavior. But that's finding that particular proxy. And in the past, I've been able to do that on EDUs. So if you're restricted only to go to EDU sites, you might be able to search for CGI name that you know is a proxy CGI, site EDU, and be able to get out. Let's go back and look for something else. This one's really popular. A while back, the forum I used to be on a lot was BenRev, and they had this discovered porn thread, where basically people have been using this particular search parameter to find people who had dumped the porn out there in a publicly accessible folder. But the thing is, so many people started doing it that other folks would deliberately put those terms inside the title. Index of Etsy. And there's a few different web servers out there that if you don't have a default homepage, what it'll do is it'll automatically create, if you don't have like an index.html in a directory or default.html, it will give you an index of everything in that directory. And so that's the kind of things people have been looking for. Well, people figured this out, and so to get more traffic, they would try to become high in the search term for in title index of Etsy. And there's also a lot of people out there who do that index of Etsy. Actually, sorry, Etsy's not a good example. They would do index of porn or something like that. This is someone looking for config files. And these people out here, like Grey World, they got wise to that. And if you actually go out here, you'll find a lot of people who actually are running honeypots to try to catch people who are using Google hacking techniques to try to find a password file that's sitting out there in the open. But if you have some index of private, this is probably a better example of someone out there trying to get for people who are searching for free porn. This is probably someone trying to get those sorts of people. I won't click to actually go see what it is, but that's kind of an example. Alright, let's say I want to see any sites on a particular, let's say I want to see open folders on a certain company's website. Or you could use site:irongeek.com, index of, and try to return any page where it has that. For instance, I have a directory called archive, and I have no idea what I even have out there. And I have a few files out there, which is a KMZ file, which is like a Google Earth file with a bunch of access points around the Nauticon Hotel earlier this year. What else do we have? Apparently, you can see an index of auth3s, and sometimes people will put out these public folders stuff that they really didn't mean to. And this is a good way of finding it. Snowbot. And there's more interesting search terms you could probably use to find out information. Let's say you only want to find PowerPoint files, or in this case, PowerPoint 2007 and newer files on irongeek.com. You can say file type :PPTP x site :irongeek.com. And now it's only PowerPoint files. You can list the same thing for PDFs. Like sometimes I'll be told I need to read a certain paper, and they won't provide me a link to it. I expect it to go to some pay site to be able to get the PDF. You just type PDF : name of the document, or file type : PDF, and then the rough name or title of it. you might be able to go out and find it, as opposed to having to filter through a bunch of stuff. You can go specifically for that sort of file. Here's a bunch of PowerPoint files I have on my website. Not me, of course, because I would never pirate a book, but just a lot of books you get out there. Let me see close these out. Let's see what else we got here. A few other examples. Oh, sometimes people leave web interfaces out for things they probably shouldn't. Like this is a VNC default port that VNC for the web works on. When we go to the website that actually serves up the little Java app that you can use the VNC in. And sometimes people put that in public. I'm not sure actually going to click on any of those because that would probably be a naughty thing to do. And some of these may have been taken down in the meantime, but here's a list of different sites out there who probably have VNC exposed to the public where anybody can try to connect to it. Let's look for some other stuff. Let's say I wanted to find references to Iron Geek, references to Aiden Crenshaw without it being on IronGeek.com. I can take out IronGeek.com from the listing by just doing -site IronGeek.com. For instance, if I take this out, notice how the first result is going to be IronGeek.com, so is the second, third result. Probably a few other results on this, maybe. I break them out mostly here. But I want to get rid of everything IronGeek.com. And the first result is, of course, LinkedIn. Next one up is Vimeo. There you go. That could be really useful if you want to find out, if you know someone has a lot of noise on certain sites, you can filter that out just by using the negative sign and some of the search parameter. Yeah. Let's go to the next one. A few more examples. This one's interesting because sometimes people will post out social security numbers they really, really shouldn't. So a common abbreviation for that is SSN, file type XLS, or file type XLSX, using that little OR operator I mentioned before. And here's a few places that might be interesting to look at. Now, in some cases, it's not an actual social security number, but this just gives you an example. And I've used this particular parameter along with a site colon to find stuff at certain organizations that is pertinent. Let's see. Oh, we talked about doing zone transfers before. I think a while back I was looking for someone who would actually allow zone transfers. So I tried to find someone else who had done a zone transfer so I could use the same example. And and this is using wildcards, so digexample.com. So I don't think that one still works. I'm not sure. I have to go check. But here's a bunch of people who have basically been doing zone transfers on various domains, and maybe one of those has been valid. So sometimes you can actually use other people's results for your own, but it's searching for what the results would have been. And that's using the asterisk as a wildcards. If you have any questions, go ahead and ask away. Except with the Google hacking stuff, you really have to use your imagination. There's all sorts of options. And Johnny Long is kind of the godfather of Google hacking. He has a book out on it. And it's there's probably a lot of new stuff out there even since then. I'm going to show a couple of databases here towards the end of basically cool Google dorks people have found. They're sometimes referred to as Google hacks or Google dorks that you can do for finding sensitive information using Google. Because Google knows all. Alright, in URL admin. So a lot of people name their admin scripts for some web application. Admin.perl, admin.php, what have you. Let's see. Well, that one's not specifically amazing. Offer admin, that one. See, these are all offer admin. That might actually be useful. Let's do something a little bit more specific. Maybe admin.php.
Even is it using regular functions?
I don't.
Or is it a variant of them?
Not to my knowledge. But does it?
So you can dash and stuff, make it look a little bit like you're using
A little bit.
regular expressions as part of it, your piping and stuff, so I wonder if those would work. So you could do admin star, for instance, or AD star.
Honestly, I haven't tried.
I'll play around.
Let me know what your results are.
Sounds like that's what they're doing.
There's a bunch of admin PHP pages. These ones might be a little more promising. Like this is someone's. Well, that's in a common directory for WordPress. But it can give you interesting results. Let's go back. In URL, index frame, SHTML, axis. Now, anybody know what axis is in this context? Camera. Oh. We'll go up to her in a bit. Alright. So a bunch of people put their webcams online, like security cameras, and may not realize it. I'm not going to actually click on any of these, but just based on the names alone, some of these are probably actual valid webcams, and there's a ton of different types of webcams out there. So, it's more just access. There's certain other common search parameters. You just got to know, in this case, in the URL, indexframe.shtml is part of that URL. So you can go out and search for them that are publicly out there in Google. Let's see, what's another common one? Ooh, this.lcd dispatcher. What do you think that one might be? Well, this particular string appears, or HP device, that one might give you a clue. This particular string appears on some JetDirect print servers. And here's interesting about print servers. I don't know about this particular type of printer, but some print servers store jobs, and if it's publicly internet accessible, someone can find stuff like, not that I've seen this, but I've heard of other people who've seen, Bob, my friend Bob, who actually, he's not really a friend, I barely know him from online. But Bob apparently has sometimes found like people's timesheets with social security numbers out there on printers. But another example is people who have the, well, there's so many people who configure the little JetDirect boxes not to use anything but the default password. So if someone logs in, they can set the IP address to the same thing as the gateway that the machine is on. What happens when you set your JetDirect box to have the same IP address as the gateway? Instant denial of service attack that's kind of a pain in the butt to track down. So that's an example.
It's a large network.
And these are just a few examples. I'll show you some Google databases later on to give you more ideas. And once you've played around with a certain application, you can make up your own Google Docs for finding things. Let me see. Ooh. I want to find a reference to anybody using a certain IP address online. This one's not going to be very interesting because this is your standard non-routable that's handed out by a lot of different home NAT boxes. But if you type in your company's IP address range, you might find something interesting. Sometimes you might find Wikipedia articles or the like where someone from the company has been editing a Wikipedia article to make it sound better than the organization actually is. Those are intriguing. Let me see. Let me see. Actually, I got to come back to her in a second. This one's a little different, and for this one, I'm actually going to escape out, and I got to get in here and copy part of that. This is a Facebook image. Sometimes people will forget what they've done with images, and they'll like copy from one social network to another an image they've already had up someplace else, and not pull it back from the hard drive anew. So let's say someone posts on Facebook and like, I want to take the same image and put it on some other location, let's say 4chan. If the image file name hasn't changed, this middle part actually maps to the person. This actually maps to the person's profile. So if I was to use an in URL and that number, let's see what comes up. Let me get back in there. Okay, well, in URL, that number, Facebook is the only thing that comes up. It looks like there's this Facebook profile for some lady named Esther Pent. And there's Esther. She works for the NSA. Apparently she went to Georgetown, Woodrow Wilson High School in Washington, D.C. Interested in men and women.
She work in the same office that Robin does?
Possibly. I gotta admit, I was partly inspired to make it a female profile to stalk just based on the
Based on Robin's age?
Yeah.
It's so much easier to get added as a woman than it is.
That was my thought also. Because after the Robin Sage incident, I don't think it's as easy as it was. By the way,
I bet it is.
the actual girl that's modeled on her hair isn't that red. I just had to do some, not like Photoshop, it's paint.netting. Now, we were having all sorts of problems getting those social search engines to actually work and give us good results. I'm showing you how to do something with Google hacking. A lot of social networking sites will put the person's name in the URL. By the way, that dot just means a space, so anything right there. if I would just search for in-URL Esther Pent, there's that same Facebook profile once again, which I already had up previously. Let's see. Close out some of these. Alright, let's go back into this. Same thing, in-URL. I know Esther uses 1537 leet as a username. So that brought up her Twitter account. Let's say I only do this because she had only this on some forums. I can look up just Esther, and then I find Esther Pent with the full name, so I now know her full name someplace else. That's the thing about open source intelligence. You got to link one thing to another to another. One site may not give you all that information, but another one will. And going back to that whole image search thing, let's say Esther's image was in 10i. You might find a profile someplace that she doesn't say anything about herself, doesn't even use that same username. You can search for it someplace. That brings you another profile that does use a username that you know about. You can search for that username, then find a real name. It's all about linking these together. But all of these are pretty much Twitter posts. I'm not even sure what this is. Get out your. I'm not even sure that's the Esther I created. Alright, Untitled will also give you similar results, except for instead of being in the URL, it has to be in the title. But you can see, that happens to just give us pretty much the same results. It depends on how the web application is designed. Another thing you can do is in-URL user, in-URL IronGeek. I probably could string that together somehow like an all URL, but I didn't do it in this case. And I want to, of course, get rid of irongeek.com because I already know that's going to be noise. Because it's going to be in the URL, but it's not going to be valid. So let me see, well, IronGeek might have a user profile. Well, this little wiki page at OWASP is on the user IronGeek there. And of course, that's me. Now you know my real name again. YouTube. Fringepedia. So apparently IronGeek likes the TV show Fringe. There's a little bit of extra profile information. So if someone sends some kind of phishing email saying Anatol naked to that particular person, he might be more likely to click it. That's one of the ways this kind of profile can be used. Not that I would be going out there looking for fakes of Anatol. I'm just saying someone else might. Yeah. Oh, apparently CyanogenMod. Now, CyanogenMod, for those who don't know, you can quickly find that out by just looking at the forum, is a distribution of Android for various phones. So this pretty much instantly tells you that I'm an Android phone user, so it might give you an idea about some exploits you could throw my way. Also, if you start looking through the posts that I've made, like go to my topics, you'll probably find out that I'm using an Evo Shift, so that gives you extra information. You might even find out the particular versions of software that I'm having a problem with. Tons and tons of information. And so far, this has been better than all those. Now, great, it's more work on your own, but so far, this has been better than those all-in-one person search engines. Oh, e-opinions. Probably people I've complained about over the years. Reddit, I'm not sure I put there. Apparently I have an account on Vision 3, I didn't recall that. Dead Pit Forums, you can find out what horror films I dig. Let's see, I'm not even sure what this is. Actually, this is not me. This is some kind of contest or something. Apparently I have a Ustream account. You might be able to go out there and look at videos I've posted. Once again, YouTube, and I'm not even sure what this one is. Alright, but that in-URL and user in-URL IronGeek returned a lot of pretty good results. And let's see, what else we got? Oh, much the same way, we could probably use account instead, in-URL account IronGeek. This one I didn't filter out irongeek.com. Probably could have. Now this one, though, PHP Kids came up. That's nice. That one didn't seem to come up in the previous one, did it? BinRev came up. Let's see, Professional Security Testers came up. So I have a lot of accounts out there. Now, because we probably want to put those into one search engine, I think we can do that by bracketing those together and using user. And, to filter out some of that noise I mentioned before. Oh, I forgot I need to put in site. Because I don't want to be from that site, but if someone mentions ISSA.com, I want it to still be up. I just don't want it to be from my site. So there's that OWASP one again. Let's see, Frenchpedia one again. But the bitmap one's in there also. So that saves us some time because we can do all that in one particular search. Because I strung them all together using the OR operator and the parentheses. Getting to know me, getting to know all about me. My mother made me listen to a lot of musicals when I was a kid. Not that they had any mental effect on me whatsoever. Oh, here's another one. Facebook. I think I got one similar to this from Tom Eston. He does a lot of work on social network security. Him and Kevin Johnson. But he sent me one of his articles, and I got to admit, I bogarted this straight from him. But I think I link off to some of his work later on in the presentation. I'm looking at the site Facebook, in URL, group, because I know in that particular web application they have the word group in the URL, ISSA or Information Security Association, because I don't want to do two searches, and sometimes people abbreviate it. Rarely they don't. Some other companies, you'll see a lot more problems with abbreviation. Like universities, a lot of people abbreviate, but sometimes they don't. You have to search for both. So here I can find Facebook profiles for a bunch of people who are members of various ISSA chapters. But that could just easily be a company. By the way, a lot of these search parameters may also work on Bing. Bing has a lot of similar search parameters, but the one I usually show on Bing is just the IP colon because Google doesn't have that one. At least last time I checked. Oh, LinkedIn, company, NSA, or National Security Agency. That's a good one for LinkedIn. That's another one I got from Tom Eston.
Yeah, that won't be long.
But I might be able to find a few people, and I find a few shared connections I have with people on LinkedIn, who also maybe have somehow connections with people at the NSA.
We'll just stay with it. We don't have to bail you out.
But those ones are all really good for like looking up search engines. You know what I've been thinking about doing, assuming Google wouldn't kick me out of the AdSense program for doing it, is making a page where you just fill in the names of people and it will automatically bring up all these URLs for you. Just click. Because, like I said, I've been so frustrated with social search engines that I've used in the past that were good at one time. Like Rapid was awesome at one time, but then they went commercial. And okay, they have a right to try to make money, but it's frustrating to get used to you having a good resource and having it go away. Oh, databases for doing just these kind of fun things. Old school one, we can go out to Hackers for Charity. This is Johnny Longstein. Some of the previous classes I've done, we've actually done them for this particular charity. You can go out there and they'll have a bunch of common Google Docs you can use. Like, let's see, footholds, examples of queries that you can help a hacker gain a foothold into a web server. That might be like vulnerable web servers, ones that are a little older that you know have problems, or web applications they know have problems. Files containing usernames. Let's click on that one. And they break it into tons of different categories. So you see that this particular database is a little older. It might still be useful.
Might not be able to see that one.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Whoops for me. Bash history files, SSH history files, in URL admin, in URL user list. Apparently you can pull up a little more information about them. But this is a little older school. I'm not sure how up to date Johnny and folks are keeping this. My impression is the people at ExploitDB have kind of taken over this work and are putting out their own Google Docs. I'm not sure what the connection is with Johnny or not. Also, ExploitDB, if you're ever curious about is there an exploit out for this vulnerability, it's a great place to go check. But they have their own little Google hacking database. They break it down into category. But here's a few ones that were updated recently, like the 11th of this month. Login name, repository, web top, in title. Let's click that one and see what it is. Alright, I'm assuming that's some kind of web top web application you're looking around for the login screen for people who have this made public. And there's a few, of course the top search result is ExploitDB itself. There's a few people that might have that particular web page out, public internet facing. Let's see if we can find another good one in that database. Let's go look into categories. Maybe there's something cool. Files containing usernames. That's fun. I could search for a particular web application. If I want to look for a particular web application online, I might be able to find it using search here, but let's see. Extremetracking.com in URL login. Stream user passphrase equals. Okay, that one looks promising. Steam. I don't know if I said stream or not. Let's see. Click there. See what comes up. Apparently this one, in some cases, people who are Steam users will put this stuff online. Account name here. These are returning really promising results. If we're going ideas for more Google dorks, go out here and check out the database as well as Johnny's. Give you some ideas. File type INI, saved passwords. Oh, that looks promising. Check that one out before we go back. And there's some INI files people have posted, apparently for UT Unreal Tournament 2004. Oh, interesting. I'm thinking this is some kind of password for Unreal Tournament server. Probably help if I went back and actually read the description. Yep, pretty much. So, those are a few different ideas. Now, the one I showed you earlier, much earlier, searching for Etsy, indexes Etsy. That one's probably going to have so much noise on it now because so many people have done it in the past. It's not going to return decent results, but it's still a possibility for other types of common config directories and file names. All right. Now, there's also various tools out there for doing some Google hacking. I was going to show MetaGoofield, but it's probably not as pretty as the other tool I decided to show instead. Also, there's various searches you can do for email addresses, and I do want to show off Harvester. And I'm going to thumb through my notes here just a little bit because there may be some sub-points I want to make sure I cover. All right. We can go ahead and pull up Harvester inside of Backtrack and see what kind of results we get. And this is the particular search we're going to use. And since I'm awful lazy, I don't want to have to type all that again, so I'm just going to try to copy and paste it and hope that VMware Tools doesn't fail me. Because it might. All right. I'm going to change directory into pen test, enumeration, and we're going to go into, well, here's a few different options we have in that directory. I hit tab a couple of times. Google and Harvester. Actually, it might be the Harvester. Oh, I'm looking in the wrong directory for it?
Yeah, Google's too much.
Ah! Small keyboard, no light. That's my excuse, and I'm sticking to it. Now, why don't more netbooks have backlit keyboards?
Yeah.
Let's see. The Harvester right there. Yeah, but most everything else, little LEDs doing a whole lot. Alright, got the Harvester there. Now we'll go ahead and do a search, and I'm going to see if that paste actually works. So I'm going to run the Harvester, current directory, on the domain igeek.com, limit it to 100, and we're going to use Google as a search engine. By the way, a lot of these, you don't know what script does what or where they're at. You can probably go underneath of VMware's freaking out just a little bit for me. Applications, Backtrack, information gathering, and I'm thinking it's going to be someplace in the listings. Google Hacking Database, that's not an open source analysis. I don't see where Harvester is in here. Then again, some of the stuff doesn't actually exist in the menu system. The nice thing about the menu system, if it does exist there, is you can sometimes opens up a command prompt for you right into the directory that you want to be in, which can be convenient, and brings up the help automatically. All right, let me close this terminal and go back. And you see it found 2 email addresses at irongeek.com, but they're the ones everybody knows about pretty much. It also found a few other host names at irongeek.com, Some of these aren't even valid. Of course, if you want more information about configuring it, we can try running it without any options. That sometimes gives you back the help information on some of these tools. Other ones you have to use that dash question mark or dash help. But let's use something more interesting. Oh, apparently I can harvest stuff from LinkedIn. That's neat. You know what? What's another place we can actually do? How about an educational institution, perhaps? Any volunteers?
Do IUP,
How about we do MIT.edu? Is that right?
Why not?
Bunch of boxes. One email address? I find that hard to believe.
Well, you are querying MIT.
But it gives you an idea. Depending on the company you query, you might find a whole lot of stuff out there.
You want an IVTech.edu since it's not full of engineers.
See what comes back. And basically, this is basically doing this Google hack. Yeah, tons of stuff. Let me scroll back up.
Securing a bunch.
So a bunch of email addresses set at the beginning of doing some brute forcing. Yippee-ki-yay. Now, if you wanted to do some more brute forcing, that you have email addresses, you can email them and say, hey, I wonder what the classes you offer and the curriculum you have. Then when they send you back, you look at the mail headers to find out more details. But that's an example of using Harvester for finding out some interesting information. Another tool I was going to show off, as far as doing these kind of mass Google hacks, sometimes you don't even want to have to search for all these different things. You just want to throw a ton of stuff at a domain. You can do that to some degree with, well, there's a bunch of tools out there. Recon has some options for doing this. But I think SiteDigger is the one I'm going to use, and I think I already have it installed someplace on the machine. So let's see if I can. I'll bring up SiteDigger, and the install is on there on the machines if you want to try it. It's in that tools folder, and we can actually do a search through these databases of different Google hacks. And you can go ahead and say, don't do these, do some others. You can choose which ones you actually want to apply. But essentially what it's do is go apply a bunch of these Google dorks all at one time. Now the problem with running this particular tool, and one reason I chose to do it towards the end of the Google hacking section, is Google may see it and go, wow, this person's doing a lot of searches, that's probably a bot, let's stop him. But essentially what it does is it runs through a bunch of those Google dorks automatically and gives you results that you can use to go take a look at. And that's probably going to take a while to run. But here's a bunch of pages it found. Like it looks like it found, of course, irongeek.com, because I specified it. But the particular one problem it matched, it's doing all in URL install.php. Now I'm not sure why that one's coming up in that particular query. I have to go look at it closer. But there's an example of using a tool to actually automate the whole Google hacking process. So many things I still prefer to do by hand, however. What was that? Few other tools doing exactly these kind of things would be like Spiderfoot and Gulag. GooScan is another one. Wicto has some of that functionality. We just showed SiteDigger. Files has some similar functionality. MSN Pawn also has a lot of those functionalities, but it's using I'm setting my MSN in the background. I don't think I've moved that tool in a while. I imagine it still exists. It's probably going to be something like Bing. One of the problems with a lot of these Google tools you'll find, though, is some of them are actually fairly old, and Google has changed its APIs several times since. Some of the tools out there actually require you to use a SOAP proxy, because the SOAP proxy, well, the new API that's supported, like the old tool uses SOAP, but you may not have a SOAP key that will work with Google anymore, so you have to use the proxy in between to interpret to the new API. So they've switched from JSON Atom to other. Well, actually, I think JSON and Atom are the ones they're currently using as far as APIs. But you're also kind of limited by, I think, like, what is it, 100 queries a day, something along those lines if you're using the APIs. And also, if you want to use some of the old tools, you have to have the old API keys. You can find some of those, by the way. If you go out to Google Code and do some searching around for certain strings, you can find what people have left their keys in source code projects. You also sometimes, my understanding, find EC3 instance keys out there as well. I think I got that particular trick from Chris Nickerson. If you want to use some really old SOAP apps, you may have to look into using some proxies. I think Evil API is no longer around. Since supposed to make something called Spud for that. And of course, you can look around in Google Hub for, GitHub for those API keys I was mentioning before. This right here is specifying APIs you can use for web search from Google.